We are live on YouTube.
Thank you, Andrew. At this time, I'd like to reconvene into open session. The time is 5 o'clock p.m. I'd like to, part 4 of our agenda. Number B, I'd like to report out the actions taken in closed session. We had 3 actions taken in closed session. The first, by a vote of 4-0, the trustees voted to allow a student who was expelled last year to re-enroll as either independent study or distance learning.
Pamela, we lost you.
Oh, am I back? Am I back? Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. The second item we'd like to report out on is by a vote of 4-0. The trustees voted to deny the government claim of Eli Chapman. The third item we'd like to report out on that happened in closed session is by a vote of 4-0. The trustees voted to waive the 180-day wait period regarding Jim Galloway to come back to be used on an as-needed basis. And at this point, we are also have authorized the administration to search for a permanent person to take that position. Any other comments there, Spencer?
Nope, thank you.
Great. Okay, at this point, I'd like to lead the Pledge of Allegiance. If everyone could please stand. And salute. Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to move to number 5 on our agenda, the comment section. And this will be comments and announcements by board members. Oh, prior to that, sorry. Kim Felder, are there any variances to the agenda we need to be concerned with?
None at this time.
Thank you. So we'll move to the comments section. I'll go by a roll to see if there's any comments by the board. So Art?
I have nothing.
Great, thank you. Bill? Bill, I lost you.
I'm sorry. I have no comment.
Thank you. Sandra?
I have nothing at this time.
And I don't have anything to report at this time either. Just so that, because we're doing this virtual, we have 4 board members here, plus Dr. Holtham, but Mark Grover was unable to attend. Comments and announcements about by administration. Spencer, we'll start with you.
Yes, thank you. Just want to let everybody know that we have been very, very busy as we're kind of trying to roll with the changes that are coming down with our pandemic and dealing with the COVID-19 reopening of schools. Later on in our agenda, we have the reopening of schools as a discussion item, and we'll be sharing a lot of the latest information and our plan with the board and the public of our next steps and how we're going to be reopening schools based on a lot of what the governor Gavin Newsom shared with us on this past Friday and the mandates that we have. I just want to say thank you to everybody who has been on my reopening committee. We currently have 92 members of our reopening committee, and we've been meeting every Wednesday and sometimes even twice a week on a Zoom call to discuss, listen to, and to share ideas and questions and concerns regarding our latest. But I want to thank everybody for being a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Spencer. Janet, welcome, first of all.
You're on mute, Janet.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here, so I appreciate it. It has been a very fun and busy week. As you know, the governor on Friday had announced some new regulations. We had already started working on planning for distance learning and for some kind of a blended learning and for the kids to be fully back at school. And in that process, we have been talking about what we will be doing to support professional development, what we'll be doing for the synchronous and asynchronous learning. And we've also talked about a communication plan of what that's going to look like. Spencer, do you want me to go into that later when you talk, or do you want me to?
Yes, I will have you share out more of the plan when it's on the agenda.
Okay. So we've been busy getting ready with that, meeting a variety of different teacher groups and trying to get feedback and input from everybody. And I'll share more later.
Thank you, Janet. I appreciate that. Kimberly Tyler.
Good evening. I just want to express welcome to Janet. She has been an extremely busy person since we onboarded her. And my gratitude to the entire leadership team for their guidance and the way that they've been so proactive and flexible in putting together the reopening committee and all the work that they've been doing on that. I just appreciate that very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. And Andrew James?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I wanted to first welcome Janet. Look forward to working with you both virtually and later in person. I also wanted to take a moment to thank the maintenance staff, Paul and Tammy in the Food Service Administration and the business office. I know they're all working very hard, trying to make the adjustments as things go back and forth, and trying to do their job and do a job that's going to support our students and staff. And they're all working very hard and trying to do the best thing they can. Dealing with how much things are changing from moment to moment. So just wanted to say thank you to them.
Thank you, Andrew. We'll move on to 5C, comments by the public. At this time, the board will extend an invitation to interested parties who wish to speak on matters which are school related. You may email your comments or questions to backpack@ocesd.net. That's BACK@ocesd.net. Please include your first and last name in your email. Comments and questions will be read into the record and/or addressed during the meeting. However, emails received without the sender's name will not be shared during the meeting. The Brown Act does not allow the governing board to discuss or take action on any item that is not posted on the agenda. At this time, I'd like to ask Andrew and Spencer, who I believe have access to the email box, if there's anything in there.
Yes, I do have several items to share with you. And at this time, Madam President, I'd like to read those comments for you now.
Thank you.
The first one is titled Financial Concerns. This is from Elizabeth Parmentier. She is the OETA union president and also a kindergarten teacher at Oakdale Heights Elementary. Hello, there are two items on the July 22nd board agenda that raise a concern for me. I constantly hear the district saying they are in dire financial trouble, yet there are items that could add to those concerns. The first is hiring back of our retired maintenance director. I'm not against the rehiring, but concerned there is no limit on the amount of hours that will be incurred. The document states the district will be looking for a new position to fill that position. I was under the understanding that was being put on hold. It also lists an agreement with CSEA for a maintenance lead. This new position is not enough to cover the district's needs. The second item is the underage student being allowed to attend school even though they missed the cutoff date. These students will not generate ADA until February and April. This will be a cost to our district as they will be taking a spot of a student who could generate ADA. My class was full last year, as were most others. Do you have the luxury of taking students who do not meet the state requirements just because they are an employee's child and are at added cost? Thank you, Beth Parmentier, TKK teacher. The second one is underage TK student. Hello, I saw on the agenda the item regarding approving or declining 2 underage students from district employees to attend school in our district. I have concerns as one will be in my classroom. Last spring, we briefly discussed this with the idea that I would be able to spend some time with the student to gauge their maturity and academic social ability to attend a full day TK program. This was not able to occur. I am concerned about what will occur if the student is unable to handle my TK program. I understand we may start off distance learning or even a blended program, but I am hopeful that we will eventually go back to full day. I have some questions. Will the students displace any regular age student that would be on my roll? At my site, we tend to enroll last minute or even after school begins. If this student begins with me and then others enroll, will this student be taken off my roll? I do not feel this student should displace any others who meet the state age requirements, even if they join a bit later. What if the student is unable to handle the classroom? Am I allowed to state he is not ready for the TK program? Will my judgment be enough, or will I have to go through a process? What will be my timeline be? I've not met the student. I know the staff member and understand their reasoning. I have the utmost respect for this member. I do not want to feel like my class is daycare. I want a quality learning program for all my students. Without being able to meet the student, I request this enrollment be denied. If in the future I'm able to have the opportunity to meet with the student and have room on my roster, then it could be considered. Thank you, Beth Parmentier, TKK teacher, Oakdale Heights.
Spencer, another email came in from Beth you want to look at regarding these comments.
Okay. I have another one. It says from Beth Parmentier, last spring it was stated that I would be able to meet the student and then would make the recommendation. Why has this changed? This is for board meeting and TK. This is from Courtney Eggy, who is a parent of one of the students that the board will be considering later on the board agenda. And I just want to remind the board at this time, we don't make any comments regarding these comments, but we will get into the conversation at the appointed agenda time. This is Courtney Eggy, parent. Thank you for the consideration. Here's what I'd like to share for my situation. My daughter Adeline is a perfect candidate for an early TK program and a student that would increase enrollment for OCESD the following year as an out-of-district transfer. Addie is both socially and academically ready for kindergarten. Choosing to enroll my daughter outside the district we live, further from local friends, was a decision my husband and I made because of the quality program OCESD offers. Thank you, Courtney. This next one is from Christy Malone, who is also a parent of one of the TK students we'll be considering. Atticus has been in a structured preschool setting since the spring of 2019 in the UK, where they know their stuff, and always marched right in and made friends right away. We then enrolled him full-time at Helen Wilcox Preschool for the 2019-2020 school year because it was near Oakdale Heights, where I was assigned. He was a teacher's favorite, His teacher, Tina Jameson, commended how much he already knew, counts to 20 plus, writes his name, no problems, names shapes and colors, follows routines, loves singing songs on the carpet. At home, he loves ABC Mouse, Khan Academy, and has asked to read with me, really wanting to read on his own. He loves to talk about numbers, and one of his favorite shows is Number Blocks. He's a lefty and athletic. He loves pattern blocks, puzzles, matching games, Uno, and finds humor all around him. I think he'd do very well mixed with the older kinder students and be a positive learner. He loves going to school. I can also have his former teacher write a letter saying how fit he is for TK. We've stayed in touch. P.S. I've already unenrolled him from Helen Wilcox, and Tanya has all his forms registering him at Oakdale Heights. Thank you, Christy. And then I'm checking my email right now. And I want to just make sure that Beth Parmentier would like to make sure that my comments were as a teacher and not President Beth. So I just wanted to clarify that, and that was written to me by Beth. Thank you.
Andrew and Spencer, there are no other comments in the backpack at OCESD.net.
Oh, you know what? I do have one other from a parent, and let me grab it off my printer. Thank you. Sorry about that. Hi, my name is Muang Se Chow. I'm a parent of an Ophir Elementary student. After looking at the surveys, more percentage of parents ask for a blended program than an online program. I've spoken to Dr. Holtum and explained to me the reasons why we couldn't was because of the bus schedule conflicting with the high school students. After some time and thought, after our conversation, that just does not sit well with me. Why do the elementary kids have to take second after the older students? From my experience, older children are better at following social distance guidelines and understanding the importance. It's just not possible to social distance in a classroom of 30 students. If Chico Unified is able to establish a blended program, why can't Oroville? Especially when more of our parents have asked for a blended program. It will be much easier to social distance with 15 kids in the morning and 15 in the afternoon than with 30 all day. I understand the value of classroom time. I feel like a blended program best services the growth and safety of our children and our community. Can we reevaluate your 2021 school plan to incorporate a blended program at this time? We have already learned that from Beijing, a surge will just shut down our school system. So why don't we take steps to decrease that threat by eliminating class sizes with a blended program? Sincerely, Muang Se Chow. Thank you. And that's all the comments we have tonight, Madam President.
Thank you, Dr. Holcomb. I'd like to move on to number 6 of our agenda, the public hearing session. The first item is item A, the 2020-2021 original budget 40-day revision. And I'm assuming, Andrew, would you like to speak to that?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes, of course. So the state adopted a budget that was materially different than the governor's May revise. The governor's May revise is the budget we used to create the original budget. The state adopted budget is significantly better than the governor's May revision budget. Remember, if you recall, had a 10% cut in it. This still has a cut in it. It doesn't fund COLA, so that's a 2.31% cut. um, compared to what we had at the January budget. But it's significantly better. On this budget, the material difference for us is in the 2021 school year, we will be receiving 1.98 million more dollars than we would under the governor's plan. Another key feature is that it eliminates the 2021 ADA collection process. So that means that when we get to 21-22, look back at our prior year, because typically we're declining in enrollment, we'll be looking at the 19-20 enrollment in ADA for our funding instead of the 2021 funding. So this is a positive thing for us for these 2 years. But if you look at the multi-year projection I presented to you, I highlighted an area in gray. And in that area, you'll see that the 22-23 school year, we have a significant decline in LCFF funding. And this has to do with now we're basing our ADA on the greater of the 21-22 school year or the 22-23 school year, which will still have declines in it over the years. So it sort of looks like we're going off a cliff instead of a gradual step down, which if we're going to be collecting ADA for 2021 and reporting it and being funded on it, then it would be a gradual step down the stairs. But they gave us sort of a pass for 21-22, so it ends up being, like we're falling off a cliff in that third year, and then it'll go back to the stair steps down as we continue to decline in enrollment. Another thing that was added to this budget that's going to create a significant challenge for Oroville City Elementary School District is they added significant new deferrals to the budget. So with the new deferrals, this means they're going to not pay us for part of February. I think March, April, May, June, all of them are on the slate for some percentage to be deferred into the next year. So that's just, hey, I owe you the money, but I'm not going to give it to you right now. This is how the state solved the budget problem. And it's more in line with this is smoke and mirrors than it is an actual solution to a problem. They didn't make a cut where they needed to balance their budget. They simply made a fake cut where, oh, we're gonna, this, for them, these show up on their budget as they've cut schools by this amount of money, the amount they didn't pay us, and then they have to pay us back in the next year. So it balances their budget by just delaying the payments to us instead of making an actual cut. This is going to put our cash balances for our general fund into the negative to the tune of about $2.6 million in June, and in May it'll be negative by about $754,000. So we don't have enough interfund money in the district to borrow from other funds to cover that amount of money. So we're working with the Butte County Office of Education and the other districts to see if we can go out for a tax revenue anticipation note where we'd be able to borrow funds in the marketplace to cover the cash imbalance. Without being able to borrow funds, and this is something I'll be bringing back to the board as we get further down this process, without the ability to borrow funds, we would be bankrupt and the state would take over. So it's critical that we're going to be, we're relying on the ability to borrow funds in order to stay fiscally solvent. So the budget perspective for this 45-day redivision is significantly better. But if you look at our multi-year projection in the third year, we are still showing a negative ending fund balance. And that's something that's going to trigger AB 1200 process for us. We simply, the assumptions in the budget are that there's no COLA allotted to the LCFF calculation for the 2021, 2020, 21, 22, and 22, 23 school years. So when you get to the bottom, we don't have enough money to end the third year with a positive ending fund balance. So what that AB 1200 process is going to look like, I'm not sure. I'll be working with the Butte County Office of Education to see. This is something that all of administration will be working together to come up with a plan as to how do we fill fill the gap. How do we find $300,000 by the end of that third year, which I believe is something that we will be able to find, or find a strategy to be able to accommodate that problem. And I believe that we will be out of this issue at the first interim budget, but it will require some cuts. A $300,000 problem over 3 years, it's still $300,000. It's still a lot of money. So we're looking at all different ways to try to make that up, and working really hard to do that. And we'll be bringing those maybe a list or some ideas for some things to the board, so you can see kind of what we're talking about down the road. Otherwise, other news from the budget that's not necessarily included in the 45-day budget revision packet is we've received about $2.7 million, or are slated to receive about $2.7 million in a combination of 4 or 5 different funding sources that are designated for some specific expenditures related to making up learning loss, reopening schools safely, all of which are coronavirus related funding. So this is going to pay for things like we're getting thermal temperature check stations for our schools when they reopen. Those will be paid from this money. So we do have a pool of money that's not going to impact our general fund to offset the additional expenses we're going to incur as we try to get back to school or do distance learning. We also talked about each of the classrooms in the district have a new line, or most of the classrooms in the district have a new line interactive screen. We're in the process of purchasing a camera that sits atop that with a microphone that has a long cord to allow teachers to perhaps do like a sort of pseudo classroom where they talk to their class from the classroom via a very good quality camera, very good quality audio, so that they'll have something really good to work with to improve our distance learning offerings. Also from that money, there's going to be extra support, training, curriculum options, things that you'll be hearing from Janet and Spencer in the future of this meeting about, but that's where the funding comes from. There's some one-time special money. Part of it's federal money, part of it's state money that we're due to receive. And I'm really fickle on the $2.7 million number because I don't actually have a official apportionment. I don't have anything in writing other than what the School Services of California estimates. So the state's really going slow on getting information to us about what exactly this amount of money is. We just have an estimate by a third party. So hopefully that will be pretty accurate, pretty close. And we'll be very strategic about making sure we spend all of this money on things that are going to help serve our staff and students. Otherwise, this 45-day budget revision is an update to the original budget, and we'll be asking you to approve it later on in the board meeting. Were there any specific questions about the 45-day revision?
Andrew, this is Pamela. I didn't catch how much was in the budget for the coronavirus.
The coronavirus additional funding right now is about $800,000 that came in the form of what they call, and excuse me for using all these acronyms, but they've created every different kind of acronym that is imaginable. So in our budget currently is about $800,000 of ESSER funding. And that funding is already included in the budget and is very, very flexible funding. The new $2.7 million, quote, quote, $2.7 million is all very prescriptive with very explicit timelines and very explicit things you can spend the money on or cannot spend the money on. So it'll be it's like, new restricted money, basically like grant money that we didn't apply for. That's going to help offset the implementation of our distance learning and back to school programs.
Thank you. If there are
Sweet.
no further questions,
questions?
go ahead, Andrew. Sorry.
If there's no other questions, then yeah.
Okay, so if there's no
Thank you.
further questions from the board? Comment, any comments, Spencer? Nope. I'm gonna go with no. Okay, so I've lost my place. We will move on to section 7 of the agenda, which is the action session. Subject A is public comments on action items. The board will extend an invitation to interested parties who wish to speak on items.
Did we lose her again?
I believe so.
During this time. However, emails received without a sender's name will not be read. I will ask both Spencer and Andrew if there are any emails to be read.
So, Pamela, I read all the emails that I received earlier.
Two new ones came in, Spencer, that I just forwarded to you.
Okay.
Actually, one is a clarification of the same email. So there's one new full comment that just came in.
Okay. Okay. So one is, and I will hold on to this question. Well, I'll go ahead and read it now. It pertains to question regarding distance learning. And I'll go ahead and read it now. And we will be addressing it more so later as part of our discussion. But I think it's a very good question by, I believe, a parent. I have read the guidelines put out by the district regarding the 2020-21 school year plans. How will the distance learning work? Will the classes be live streamed all day? How will assignments be assigned? What is the approved curriculum? Thank you, Jennifer Newkirk. And we will address that as part of our discussion on the agenda at that time. Those are all very good questions. And then a question regarding distance learning. My son is entering 8th grade. Oh, this is from the same individual, Jennifer Newkirk, and she said, I sent a question but forgot some details that is probably important. My son is entering 8th grade. And again, we'll be discussing both our elementary and middle school plans as part of our discussion time when we get to the agenda item about reopening schools.
Thank you, Spencer. Thank you, Andrew. No further comments from the backpack at OCESD.net?
No, not at this time.
Thank you. We'll move on to number 8 on our agenda, is the consent agenda. What I'm going to do is go through the board and ask if the board has any comments or any questions or discussion they'd like on any consent items. So we'll start with Art. Did you have any concerns, questions that you would like to discuss on the consent agenda?
Cam, can you say that again? You were pretty scratchy. I couldn't understand it all.
Thank you. Sorry, Art. Is that a little clearer there? Do you have any comments or questions or discussion items that you would like to bring up at this point on section 8 of our agenda, which is the consent agenda?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Sandra?
I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Bill?
I have no question or comment on the consent agenda at this time.
Thank you. And I do not have any questions or concerns on the consent agenda. Spencer, was there anything that you needed to point out or anything you wanted to comment on?
Nothing except the fact that you'll notice that we have a number of new teachers and staff members on our personnel recommendation. It's been a longer process than normal to get people through the process of fingerprints and things like that. But you'll notice a longer list this time, and we'd like to congratulate those new employees and look forward to working with them. And even though we're going to start off in probably an untraditional model.
Thank you. I appreciate that. At this time, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
May I get a second?
Second.
Great, we'll do a roll call vote. Bill?
Yes.
Art?
Aye.
Sandra?
Aye.
And Pamela Hamilton is an aye. The motion carries. We'll move on to number 9 on our agenda, new business. Subject A, approve the lease of the Bird Street to E-Center.
Madam President, would you like me to discuss and kind of let the community know what's going on here?
Yes, thank you.
So we have been working with the Head Start and E-Center government entity that serves all different areas throughout Butte County. And they have expressed an interest in leasing our Bird Street property so that they can consolidate a lot of their program centers at a more central location. As part of this lease will be also an option to purchase the property as they're able to secure government and federal funding. We believe this is a very good situation. It would be a good partnership with our community members, with the school district, as Head Start is a very good program. E-Center is a very good program. They serve a lot of our students that eventually become members of our school district. We look at this as a very good opportunity to keep that property as it is intended, which is to educate and support students. We also think this is a very good agreement for it makes great sense for us financially, both from a lease standpoint and also from a possible purchase standpoint. So that's all I have to share with you at this time. Is there any questions or concerns regarding this?
Thank you, Spencer. At this time, I'd like to, if I could get a motion to approve the lease of 1421 Bird Street in Orville, California to E-Center.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the use of Bird Street for E-Center lease and possible to buy.
Thank you. May I get a second?
Second.
Great, we'll do a roll call vote. Bill?
Yes.
Art?
Yes.
Sandra?
Aye.
And Pamela Hamilton is an aye. The motion carries. I'd like to move on to number 9B, discuss the 2020-2021 school reopening plan. Spencer, are you going to take the lead, or Janet to take the lead on this discussion?
I will take the lead on the discussion, and then after a little bit, I'll be deferring some parts of our plan to our new Assistant Superintendent in charge of Curriculum and Assessment, Janet Handley. But I want to kind of lay the groundwork for you. On July 1st, the district proposed a plan for reopening that would include 3 different options. The first option being a traditional reopening where students would come and be in a regular classroom with regular class sizes. Number 2, and with modifications and accommodations as much as we humanly possibly could do, including mask and social distancing when possible. The second option was distance learning, and what we're now calling enhanced distance learning, because as we'll roll out tonight, we'll be doing a lot of new and hopefully more innovative ways to reach our students and provide a better online and distance learning experience over the one we had in the spring. And the third was to do independent study and give students that option of meeting with a teacher once a week and then doing their work at home more on a homeschooling basis, where a lot of the instruction is done by people at home, and then they check in with teachers once a week. Then as our numbers started to drastically increase, we have now been mandated by the governor to change gears. This past Friday, Governor Newsom came out with several different mandates for school reopenings. The biggest one was, if your county is on the statewide monitored or watch list, and your county is on that list, you cannot open with in-person instruction, but that you will be mandated to start in distance learning. Today, there was a press release by our local health department that stated that they've been notified by the state watch list that Butte County will be entering or be put on that watch list, which means by state mandate by the governor that we are opening up August 12th as a distance learning school district. We are no longer able to consider any in-person instruction at this time. And even from the standpoint of doing independent study is also in question, and we're waiting for more guidance to move forward with that plan. But as of right now, the plan for the district is to open as a distance learning school district. The other mandate that the governor introduced, besides the mandate of wearing masks whenever we're on school campuses, is the fact that social distance of 6 feet on school sites is now a mandate. Prior to last Friday, it was just a recommendation, but now it's a mandate, which means for us, for the size of our classrooms, we cannot properly social distance with kids of a number anything over 12 to 15 kids, which means we would have to do a blended or hybrid model and have kids come on a part-time basis. With that being said, we are currently working feverishly to prepare for distance learning, and we're looking to add as many programs and as many accommodations to strengthen that program between now and August 12th. In the meantime, we do anticipate that at some time during this year, we will be able to return to schools. But it is my understanding at this point that if that is a possibility, and that will only be a possibility once we come off the watch list for at least 14 consecutive days, is when we can consider coming back to a part-time in-person school model. In the meantime, we are going to be working, and we already have been working, to prepare ourselves to reopen schools. We have purchased a number of items, and like Andrew James, our Chief business official and assistant soup in charge of business, as he shared, we have bought thermal imaging machines so that we can quickly take non-invasive temperatures of kids. We have purchased desk shields. We are purchasing water stations, meaning hand washing stations. Most of our classrooms do have sinks, but those areas or parts of campuses that do not have them, we've ordered or put together hand washing stations, along with a number of other things to help us prepare for the reopening of schools. Ultimately, it is our goal to get back into school. We feel that kids learn best in the classroom. But right now, we're going to have to open as distance learning. And as soon as we're off that state mandate, we will work with the board and our community stakeholders and our staff to reopen to in-person as soon as humanly possible. We contract our transportation with Oroville High School District. And one of the issues that we have currently is that the mandate or the recommendation of the CDC for buses is every other seat, one person per seat. So in a normal school bus that holds anywhere from 60 to 80 students, we now can only hold anywhere from 12 to 16 students. So that is a major problem for us that I'm working with the high school district to see if there's other ways that we can accommodate both districts and provide a meaningful transportation system. We will be sending out, this past month in July, we've been sending out a number of different forms or questionnaires for parents to fill out. We are now changing gears because we are now mandated to change our programs. In the near future, we will be sending out additional questionnaires or sign-up sheets for the program that you may want, because I will let parents know that though it is our goal to get back into in-person instruction, there's going to be still a lot of parents that want to stay on the distance learning, and we will keep that as an option throughout the entire school year. At least I anticipate it being an option throughout the entire school year. And so I want to be clear that right now, and I know I've shared this, but I want to be clear, at this time everyone is going to be on distance learning. We will be working with those special ed students, ELD students, foster youth, and those other important groups as much as humanly possible through this distance learning modality. And we will hope to move to a blended program or a part-time program where kids go to school part-time. We have not decided on whether that's going to be every other day or kids will go AM, PM. I am working with a committee of parents, teachers, classified staff, administrators, and community stakeholders. I have 92 on that committee, and this morning, their recommendation to the district and to the board was to go to an AB schedule, which is every other day. But I will be working with the high school district to see if that's feasible based on transportation. But more surveys and questionnaires will be coming soon so that we can best meet the needs of our families. Janet, we had a parent that asked a question about what the day is going to look like specifically for an 8th grader, but I know that you are working with elementary teachers and middle school teachers to come up with a schedule and a plan. So I'll turn some time over to you to discuss it. You are still on mute, Janet.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, all right. So as Dr. Holton had said, I have been meeting with, I've met with the middle school and I met with the elementary group, and we talked about what this school day would look like. I've also participated in the meetings that Dr. Holton has had with the large group of 90 people, and trying to get input and feedback from the various stakeholders so that we can develop a solid plan. As we looked at it, I have met with the middle school teachers, and then after that, I met with the principals. And with the principals, we started to develop a schedule. With the teachers and the principals, we had a big discussion on synchronous learning, which means live learning, having a direct contact with the kids, and there's interaction going on back and forth. And asynchronous, which is when they post assignments, do a video and have the kids watch it and answer some questions. Anything that can be posted like they did last spring, that would be asynchronous. So when we develop the schedule with the principals, what we're looking at is the teachers will begin their workday at 8 o'clock. Teachers will come to school and work at the school sites, and that will be from 8 to 3:10. I have a typo there. And the morning is going to be the synchronous time. So that's where the teachers are going to have a real direct contact with their kids. And the two principals are setting up a schedule. We're starting at 9 o'clock. They have about a 25-minute time period, 5-minute break, and then they go into the next period. So kids will be scheduled into their distance learning time. And throughout the morning, we will be having set synchronous times, and they will be taking attendance. During that time, they will be using either their core curriculum, they can be using some of our online programs, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But what we are definitely asking is that they are directly communicating and interacting with the kids. So it could be that they're doing a Kahoot quick survey on kids understanding. It could be the teachers ask a question and all the kids have to type it in. It could be they're on Google Classroom and it's verbal talk. All of that is considered synchronous learning because it's back and forth communication, and we're trying to get it set up that they'll be able to see the teacher throughout that process. Okay, so they're going to have a 5-period day, and they will do math, language arts, social studies, and science, the 4 cores. And then the 2 different schools are looking at what they're doing in that additional period. It could be the ELD time, it could be time to do some SEL activities, and it could be enrichment or remediation. The afternoon is going to be time where they are connecting in with their kids, checking in to make sure everybody's on board, following along. It could be for small group instruction as well, but the afternoon is more office hours and a little open-ended. So it's going to depend on the need of the kids. They may pull small groups during that time. That's the middle school schedule. The elementary, we're meeting tomorrow to kind of fine tune a little bit more. But with the elementary group, we had talked about what their day would look like too. And their morning is going to be the instructional morning as well. That's what they'll be doing the synchronous teaching. And we did talk that with the K3 group, they're used to doing small group instruction. And so a lot of that small group instruction could be delivered in the afternoon. And the teachers will also have some time to connect up with the kids and the parents, some office time, so that they can stay in constant communication with parents and kids. One of the things that was discussed in our meetings is the parents' frustration and challenge at being able to understand and know how to support their child with the distance learning, either how to access assignments, how to communicate, how to check in and see if the kids did what they were supposed to. So there was a frustration level amongst the parents. So we've talked about a couple different things that's going to help alleviate that. One of the things that we talked about is getting an agreement that this year everybody will be on Google Classroom and Google Meets, so that the parents aren't having to figure out a bunch of different protocols. And we had also talked about for the parents that we're going to do some training. So Renee Henderson has contacted the county, and we are going to set up some trainings for parents. She did it for her school, and it can be district-wide, that would help the parents understand and know how to access assignments for their kids, how to know that their kids completing the assignments. So we understand and know that we need to also be training the parents along with the teachers on how to use the systems effectively. We are also going to be looking at seeing what we can get videotaped and then have hard copy cheat sheets. Because when I was teaching with Cal State Teach, the student teachers did much better when we gave everything in different modalities. And we'll do that with our parents as well. Try to come up with different modalities to communicate and make sure they know. Another piece that we're doing with communication is Dr. Holtum has agreed to create a video that will really help communicate to parents that our distance learning program this year is far different than what the program was last spring. So we really need to get the message out that we have an enhanced distance learning program. So he will do a video that will talk about that, and then the principals will reinforce it when they do their back to school nights. And of course, the teachers, as they are talking to the parents, will help support the parents and reinforce that this year the expectation has really changed. The State Department has come out with some guidance in terms of what they're looking for. They say that every day they want to see the synchronous learning, which is a live teaching, and the asynchronous, that the programs need to have both, not just asynchronous. So the State Department is very clear that they want us to be working with the kids live and getting good interaction. We also find that kids hang in there and do better when they have that connection with their teacher. We also are trying to support the teachers to make sure that they're prepared and ready to begin the year with distance learning. And so I sent out a survey to the teachers to find out what kind of professional development they want. I've touched base at the big meetings that Dr. Holtum does on Wednesday, and in the breakout sessions with the elementary tomorrow, I'll go over professional development schedule and get feedback and fine tune it. And I touched base today with Ishi to see if they had any suggestions or adjustments they want made. And I'll touch base with the Central as well, just to get some feedback to make sure we're addressing everybody's needs. We'll be working with the county office. They're going to be helping us with some of this distance learning. We will also be having New Line come in, and New Line is the product that was the interactive whiteboards. And earlier, Andrew had talked about we were purchasing videos, cameras. They can put the video camera and face the teacher, who can use the interactive board, and that will create a very strong synchronous learning environment. And so we'll be having New Line come and help make sure everybody understands and knows the functionality of how much the whiteboard can support them during the distance learning time. And we are also going to, Teresa Lytle has already been fabulous and has done some short little videos for just different segments of Google, so that teachers can have a chance and get up and get ready for the school year coming up. There was in our meetings a discussion that if we wait till the first day of school or the day before school starts, it's too late for some of this training. So she was trying to help support by doing some trainings this week. They're being videotaped and people can access them whenever they want to. And then in addition, we're looking at bringing the teachers who are interested back the 3 days before their contract days and pay them. And during that time, we will have a combination of some teacher planning time, support with some of the digital tools that will help them extend beyond what Google Classroom can do, and also more trainings on what the new revised Google Classroom and Google Meets will be able to do this fall. So we're trying to make sure that we provide them a lot of support when the school year starts, when we come back on Monday, Tuesday, and then throughout that week, we will have some additional trainings. The one thing that we were concerned about is that we understand and know that our teachers will provide a good quality program, but we're shifting very quickly. So we wanted to provide a safety net for parents where the kids are just having a rough time following the distance learning, and B, for the teachers to have an option of using OCESD, which is a online adaptive program, meaning that the instruction can go up or down depending on how well the students are understanding the content. So for example, if they were doing a multiplication problem that was a 2-digit by 1-digit and there were errors, it would back down to easier problems to have them practice at the level of their instructional ability. And then it will also quickly gear up if the students master the content quickly. And that will help a lot of teachers. It's in science, social studies, math. That can help support a lot. Concentrating on doing the distance learning, they could really hone in and get one content really solid as they use some of the OCESD for some of the other instruction and then develop along the way. Or they could have all the kids get into OCESD and be able to have the option of learning the different content at their level, but there will still be live teaching, which is asynchronous teaching. So we did find a need to help us support and fill in some gaps that we may have at the initial beginning, but we do anticipate throughout the year that we will be able to provide additional support and trainings to help our teachers as they become more and more proficient at the new enhanced distance learning.
Janet, can I jump in real quick?
Oh, please. Yeah.
So with Acelius, this is an online software program, but it's not like iReady, where it's designed where kids are on there for like a half hour and they get a little bored and they're off. Acelius is a true homeschooling program that's designed for distance learning if an individual is working independently. Acelius was mainly derived or developed for secondary schools for credit recovery in high school to make up learning lost, or kids who needed to catch up. And so they've adapted it to a K-12 model. It's more apt to help the kids at the middle school or the high school level, but they've adapted it and been refining it for the lower grades. I have been hearing from parents concerns like they're sending their kids to daycare and they may not have access to their Chromebook or synchronous learning. And so we're trying to provide other ways for teachers and students to access core standards and core curriculum without being taught directly by a teacher. We want to provide as many outlets and resources for our students and families and teachers as humanly possible. And so Acelius is a program that we'll be that we're looking at right now and working with, and we'll be discussing with the board next month a contract with them. But we're working with them pending board approval to get a contract so that we can have this available for the start of the year. And I have a couple other comments, but Janet, I'll let you finish and then I'll make a couple more comments and then we'll open it up for any questions.
Go ahead, Spencer. I think I pretty much covered.
Okay, perfect. So I just wanted to share that we will be utilizing our classified staff as much as possible during distance learning. At our first go round, we didn't do a great job utilizing their strengths. And so we are developing a plan where especially, I'll give an example, aides and instructional aides and special ed aides, will be working at the schools to provide tutoring to kids, to provide check-ins with families to ensure that they know what's going on and make sure that we have kids engaged on a daily basis. I am working with Officer Hutton from Oroville Police Department, who oversees the school resource officers for our district. I spoke with him yesterday, and we have 2 officers that are assigned to our district. Officer Iverson will be housed at Central, and Officer Collins will be housed at Issue Hills. And they'll be working with those 2 schools as well as our elementaries to do, and when kids are not in session, their focus will be doing home visits and working with those families that we are not seeing engaged in the distance learning process, and just making sure that they have access and doing welfare checks and things like that to ensure that we're getting all the kids in our district opportunity for this. As Janet shared, part of the governor's new plan is that kids have contact every day. And so our goal is to make contact every day. I did see in our comment section of one of our surveys that there were some parents that didn't have contact with any of their teachers in the spring. And that is, it's very difficult for us to keep accountability to know who's getting served and who's not. When I read some of those comments, I was discouraged and disappointed that we did not deliver everything that we should have as a district. And we are asking all staff to come to work every day so that we can help ensure that kids are not falling through the cracks, and that we're providing this synchronous and asynchronous support on a daily basis. And I do want to let you know that one other piece to the governor's message from Friday is, if or when we come off the watch list and we eventually get into in-person schooling, and per se a month later we go back on the watch list, as of right now, the governor said that we do not have to then go back to distance learning. And what they're saying is that they do not want to see districts toggling back and forth between distance learning and a blended model to distance learning to a blended model. Their message is, you're on the watch list, you have to do distance learning, but once you come off, then you can continue that prescriptive mode of education. And I will reiterate that even if we come off the watch list and we have a blended model to share with families, if the distance learning is working for you, and I did have about 10% of families that said, hey, distance learning last spring did work for us, and you did a really good job in the district, and they want to stick with it, then by all means, we are going to keep them on that model. And so that's all I have to share at this time. Board or anybody else, do you have any questions for Janet or I as we move forward?
This is Pamela. I'll kick off. And these are probably items, so I've kind of a laundry list of items of things that I just want to make sure that you're thinking about. So I don't really want to get into a whole prescribing, trying to solve the problem here in this meeting. Sure. But things to think about. I'm assuming after school programs are just off, or is there a piece to work on after school, continue distance learning or continue distance tutoring? I don't know. We did some breakfast lunch during that March, April, May. I don't know the thoughts on breakfast lunch. And then there's that whole Chromebook, computer, Wi-Fi bandwidth piece. And again, I'm assuming some of that might be taken care of, and maybe those issues and challenges might be discovered by the resource officers if they're doing some check-ins with students, just to find out what's going on there. And then lastly, the only, I see that we're asking our the teachers to be in 8:30 to 3:10, or anyways, that part of the day. One of the things I heard from teachers throughout this, and I know we were all new to it, we were all trying, was that at least some work, not a substantial amount of it, but at least some work was done, when maybe a parent got home from work at 6 or 6:30 or 7 or 8 o'clock at night, or perhaps even on the weekend. and that teacher was trying to make themselves available when a parent may be available so that the parent and student can work together. So I would just say, if there is a way to look at not restricting our teachers to 8 to 3 and that's it, and we open and we close, I think that I'd like to see our professionals, and we've hired them all and we pay them well, that they monitor and use some of their time that's more appropriate for learning and meeting with the students. So again, I don't want to solve all those problems here. Those are just some of the things that I saw and would like to see those answered at some point.
Pamela, I think I can answer a number of those questions, and I think they're all great questions, and we've thought about many of them already. And so I'm just going to start with your last one first. We're letting teachers know that their contract hour, that contract hours, we are going to respect their contract hours as the contract as is written, which is something to the likes of 8 o'clock to 3:50 to 3:10. I don't know the exact, because every school has a little bit different hours at times. But with that being said, we will not restrict teachers to working outside of that block. We are trying to contain time because we know sometimes parents don't have other times, and if they can work with that teacher on those times, that is totally up to that teacher, and we can totally support that. If a teacher goes, you know what, I'm doing small groups every night from 5 to 6 at home. Is it okay if I leave at 2:30 every day to compensate, offset that time? That's going to be a conversation between that site administrator and that teacher. We are not going to handcuff times or teachers. We as a district are going to say, hey, this is when we're going to be available on our school site. This is when we're going to be providing synchronous and asynchronous teaching. Anything outside of that is going to be between the administrator, the site administrator, the teacher, and the parents. So, and we won't restrict that. After school program, I did receive a email from Julie Jarrett, who is the director of the after school program for Butte County, who serves our kids. I haven't received any updates regarding support for distance learning when we're all just 100% distance learning because it's so new. But I did receive an email before when we thought we might be doing some in-school support, and they are going to be continue to providing that support. And they are actually given more flexibility to check out kids. Before, when they checked out kids early, they'd have to have a reason and things like that. And now they're going to get more flexibility that kids can kind of come and go as needed when we're in person, because we know that a lot of people have more flexible schedules right now. But that is going to be an option when we're in person. I will get more information to see if they are going to provide any services during the time that we're in 100% distance learning. As far as breakfast and lunch, I'll let Andrew add anything that he might add, but we're going to continue to offer breakfast and lunch to our students throughout the whole school year, regardless of what program we're on. And we'll continue something similar, unless there's some changes of that I'll have Andrew step in, but something similar to what we had last year.
Okay.
And then
Yeah.
Go ahead, Andrew.
So our breakfast and lunch program, the last year during the closure, the Butte County Office of Education ran that program and had a number of sites throughout town using our staff. Right now, we're looking at how does Oroville Elementary just run that program for the distance learning time in a way that will, maybe better serve kids. We're trying to be more inventive. Definitely still going to do the to-go breakfast. We're trying to improve the lunch options and the lunch offerings. So kind of like when we talk about enhanced distance learning, we're going to be looking at, how do we enhance our our meal offerings that we're supplying to our community. What sites should we have it at? Because obviously we're not going to do Bird Street again. But Central is a great location, and then maybe some other sites as well. So we're looking at all the different options, trying to make the best decisions we can, and provide the best and most nutritious meals to our students. When we're talking about, I'm going to sort of go on to the next question about bandwidth and Wi-Fi. You know, there were the hotspots, the little hotspot boxes that you can get are something we'll be looking at. We're also looking at every other possible way to get meaningful internet access for those students who don't have stable internet access. We're not quite sure what all those things mean. We've seen districts in other areas use school buses as Wi-Fi hotspots, but those school buses were already, you know, Wi-Fi enabled. They just made it so that they could broadcast outside. We're looking at, you know, where can people park on campus if they needed to park on campus to get access to the Wi-Fi, and in a variety of other things we're looking at, try to beef up our offerings to the community as far as that goes. So that's where we're at with that. Though I will say it seemed like the majority of students were able to, you know, it was a very small number of students who weren't able to access school via Wi-Fi or internet somewhere during our last closure.
And to
I
piggyback,
think, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and Chromebooks, we will be redistributing Chromebooks. We're putting together our plan. Individual school sites will be kind of overseeing their own handing out and distributing of Chromebooks. So those will be available. And before this even started, we had purchased another 500 Chromebooks. So we should be adequately prepared to continue to provide one-to-one devices for all of our students.
I appreciate that. It sounds like that some of the stuff you've already solved, other things you've actually thought about. If I could just circle once more back around, so I want to be clear for the teachers, is that as an individual teacher, I can work with my parents, students, and then go to my administrator and say, listen, I understand I'm only required to work my contracted hours, which are, let's just say for the argument of this discussion, are 8 to 3:10. However, I would like to request that on, I don't know, just Tuesday, Thursday, that I work 8 to noon, and then, you know, from my home, 4:30 to 7:30, because I have a small reading course or whatever it is, and have some discussion, so that we let our professionals sort of manage their hours. But as a board and as a school district, we will honor if a teacher wants to only work within that 8 to 3:10, let's say. Is that the way I heard that?
Well, and I would say that we are going to try to do as much as possible, keep us within that 8 to 3 zone. But we are certainly open to conversations outside of that. I would look at that more as the exception than the norm, but I will let individual school sites work with their individual teachers and families, because ultimately we want to provide a good program for our families. And if that's what we need to do, then I will let our individual administrators work with their teachers and their families to provide the best service possible.
Thank you for that. And the other thing I want to say is that I do like, and I understand that it's mandated, but I do like that we are really adhering to this, that kids have contact every day. I think that this is a really good, you know, given the situation, we're doing the best we can. And I think kids having contact every day, and if they're not, utilizing our resource officers to go out to find out why that might be the case. So I appreciate that. Thank you for the good work.
Thank you. Any other questions from any of the board? And I'm checking my my email to see if I have any other. And I actually do have a question from that same parent from from Jennifer Newkirk. How will distance learning work for students that continue with distance learning if and when school is unable to return in person? That's a great question. And to answer that question, it will be that when we return in person, we are going to continue to offer distance learning. And how that's going to work is some teachers will stay as a distance learning teacher, and some teachers will move to in-person teaching. And so that we'll be able to offer both programs. And I hope that answers your question, Jennifer.
Other questions or comments from either the administration or the board members? Okay, we can move on to subject C, which is adopt the resolution 2021-01, resolution for the 180-day wait period exception. I'm not sure, Andrew or Spencer, would you like to comment on this?
Hold on. Yeah, I can talk about that. The 180-day exception with PERS rules. We're trying to bring back Jim Galloway to work as an interim director of facilities maintenance and operations for on an interim basis intermittently. And this is something that's required by PERS to allow that to happen before he has been retired for 180 days.
Great. Any other comments? Can I get a motion to adopt the resolution 2021-01 to waive the 180-day wait period for Jim Galloway?
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you, and we'll do a roll call vote. Art,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
and Pamela Hamilton's an aye. The motion carries. We'll move on to subject D, approve the first reading of the new board policy 6157, distance learning.
So, Madam President, this is a first reading for the new board policy regarding distance learning. This, the majority of this policy was authored by CSBA, the California School Districts School Board Association, and we thought it was important that now that we're moving into a distance learning model, that we have board policy to support it. And I have read painstakingly through this whole entire policy and would like to recommend that it be approved as presented.
Board, any comments? May I get a motion to approve the first reading of the new board policy 6157, distance learning?
So moved.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Thank you. And that was a second from Bill Legrone. Kim, if you needed to know that. We'll do a roll call vote. Art? I saw you say aye and I didn't hear it, but I saw it.
Aye.
Thank you. Bill?
Yes.
Sandra?
Aye.
Aye, and an aye from Pamela Hamilton. The motion carries. We'll go on to subject E.
Pamela,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
We had another email that came in, and I believe it came under the discussion for the reopening. And for the sake of respecting this format that we use, I would like to read it into the record, if that's okay.
Yes, please continue. Thank you.
This is from Kristen Wilson, OETA lead negotiator. I'm not sure if this can be shared. Contract time is 6 hours and 40 minutes a day. please let the board know that teachers will use their 2 contract days of 13 hours and 20 minutes to the best of their ability to do everything the district is wanting them to accomplish with trainings, meetings, etc. before school officially starts on Wednesday, August the 12th. Please ask the district to provide repeat training during contracted time for those teachers that were unable to attend trainings during their contracted time off. Thank you, Kristen, for sharing that. And as Janet was sharing, we are going to be providing and paying teachers to come back early for professional development, because we agree with Kristen that 2 days of PD and prep for this process is not enough. That is why we're using some of, we're hoping to use some of the coronavirus money that we received to provide additional days that we can pay teachers and or staff to come back early and gain valuable time to spend in their classroom, valuable time to receive additional professional development to prepare for this. We're also looking at some other means that first week to adjust our schedule so that we can provide additional training time. So I think it was a meaningful question, and we are trying to accommodate and build in more time before now and August 12th.
Thank you, Spencer. Thank you, Kristen. Subject E, approve the memorandum of understanding with the California School Employees Association, the maintenance lead. Andrew, do you want to speak to this?
Sure. We've been working with CSEA on a maintenance lead position. And this is going to be part of what we're going to be doing this year in the absence of Jim Galloway as the Director of Facilities, Maintenance, and Operations. It's also a money-saving effort. We feel that this is a product of negotiation, and feel that I think we both felt very good about the negotiation process and felt like we came up with a solution that was fair to all involved. So we're hopeful that the board will consider this.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions or concerns from the board? Great. May I get a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding with the California School Employees Association regarding the maintenance lead?
So moved.
Second.
So I think I have, like, if you guys can hear me, somebody nod, because I can't hear you guys. Yeah, okay. So, okay, now I can hear you. I'm back. So it looks like Bill provided a motion. And Bill LaGrone, may I get a second?
Art already made a motion and Bill seconded it.
Sorry, thank you. Okay, and if we could get a verbal approval, a verbal vote, sorry. Art?
Aye.
Bill?
Yes.
Sandra?
Aye.
And Pamela Hamilton is a yes. The motion carries. We'll move on to subject F, approve the memorandum of understanding with the Oroville Elementary School Teachers Association, distance learning / independent study / teletherapy positions. Spencer?
Yes.
Thank you.
So this is a memorandum of understanding between the Teachers Association and the district. We were able to come to consensus through the IBB collective bargaining process, where it is recommended that the MOU with OETA be approved as presented regarding distance learning, independent study, and teletherapy positions for the 2021 school year due to COVID-19. And this is allowing us to work with the teachers and staff as we see fit or as we need. And just to kind of give an idea of what teletherapy is a good example would be a speech and language pathologist who does therapy through Zoom or Google, something like that that's done via technology. But this allows us to work with our teachers and have a clear way that we can work with teachers and move teachers and so on and so forth.
Spencer, I have a question regarding this one. It says that the teachers have to provide notice of their decision to be a distance learner or an on-site learner by the 22nd, which is the end of today.
Sure, that aspect of the agreement is kind of null and void because everybody is essentially going to distance learning. The intent of that language was that we have within the MOU, there are multiple options of depending on where an employee was with their health, whether them themselves were impacted by COVID or someone who lives with them, or they just didn't feel safe to come back. And this was going to allow the district to prioritize people when and if we need to have a certain amount of teachers that are on distance learning and a certain amount of teachers on in-person learning. And this would allow us to kind of help us prioritize the health issues so that we can keep people as safe as humanly possible.
Okay.
But
So,
go ahead.
so then when we go back to traditional learning, is there a way that we can change the language to give it a time frame as opposed to actual dates of notice?
Given our the fact that we're going to distance learning, we certainly can do that.
So like we get announced that we're going back to distance learning in like 1 week or 2 weeks. Then everybody's given X amount of days to make their decision, and 7 days after that, a doctor's note, as opposed to a finite date.
Mm-hmm. So there's a couple things that we can do in this situation. You can approve as is, and then we can go back to the table, and because things have changed, go through the process again to kind of change the language. I can't unilaterally make a change that on an MOU that we made through that process, through the board meeting process, meaning, but what we can do is approve this because most of the language is going to stay the same, and then we can go back to the table and readjust this, because I understand what you're saying. Due to our new time frame and our new model, July 22nd is not going to be a prudent time, and it would probably be better if we said within 2 weeks of knowing we're going back to in-person learning or something like that. I think if that's what I'm hearing, is that correct, Sandra?
Yeah, something that's reasonable. I leave it to Madam President to decide to table this or to change the language later date.
I think I'd like to table it, honestly, and then see if we can't get that language cleaned up. It sounds like, I mean, do you meet with the OETA on a fairly regular basis, Spencer?
We do, and I'm trying to set up a time with them here hopefully within the next couple weeks. And my recommendation will be that we'll look at those dates, and instead of putting dates, that we look at timeframes.
Yeah, a date rather than a date certain, a date. Thank you.
Thank you, Spencer.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Right. We'll move on to section G, consider the 2 underage students for admission into the district's transitional kindergarten program. I don't know, Janet or Spencer, I'm not sure who wants to speak to this.
That would be me. I've been working on that. So in our board policy for transitional kindergarten, the state ed code is students that are turning 5 between September 1st and December 2nd will can go into TK or transitional kindergarten, and then the following year they will start kindergarten. Excuse me, but in our board policy, there's a provision that students who turn 5 within that school year after December 2nd can petition the board to start TK if they're past that December 2nd deadline. Now, important to note that when a student turns 5 years old is when we start, and they miss that cutoff, and they're after that December 2nd cutoff. Whenever they turn 5, and in this case, it's they turn 5 in, I believe, February and April, we do not receive funding for them until their 5th birthday. Now, there's also language in there that goes with my, and a recommendation, or it might be just a recommendation from me or an understanding from me that they will only be approved and put and placed in those classrooms where and if it is available. Meaning if we have full classrooms, full TK classrooms, then those kids will get bumped. So they will not be displacing any of our students. The reason I am a proponent for this is because this allows those students who are prepared to start a little bit early so that they're more prepared to start kinder the following year. I will say that this provision is only used a couple times a year, and this is the first time it's being being asked since I've been here. But what I will share with you is that it is very good for kids. And honestly, I do understand the position of the teacher where the kids may or may not be totally prepared. Part of the board policy is that kids will be tested to ensure that they're socially, emotionally, and academically prepared, even though they're much younger. That provision we have not gone through because of COVID, and we haven't been meeting with kids. Now, I do plan to meet with this family, and I have talked with both the parents on multiple occasions regarding their child's readiness. Both of these children are children of teachers, and so I'm relying on their expertise to know what readiness looks like. I have talked to Beth Parmentier, who's the teacher that shared some concerns about this, and we did agree that she would have a chance to meet these kids and kind of go through the assessment process. We haven't been able to do that again because of COVID. It is my recommendation that we approve these 2 kids for admission into TK with the 2 following pieces. 1, that they go through the formal assessment and they pass those assessments. And 2, we have the room needed for them, and they're not displacing any other eligible students.
So Spencer, I was privy to the meeting this morning, excuse me, and there was a general consensus that we remain in distance learning until the end of the first trimester, quarter, depending on what school you're going to.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time that we go back to distance or traditional learning, these children may even be close to their 5th birthday, if not at their 5th birthday. And so that for them to attend a distance learning model and even just to sit in at this point, approval almost seems like a moot point.
Well, and this is designed, this board policy is designed for obviously in-person instruction. The fact that we're going to start in distance learning does very much change some of the dynamics to this. But it's still my recommendation that that we approve this. So when and if we go back to in-person, we're able to consider them for a spot.
And then testing wouldn't happen until, maybe 3 months down the road.
Well, we might be able to test, as long as we, do it within, people feel comfortable doing it. And two,
Right.
if they would, mask up and, do those certain things, I think we can assess these kids before the start of school. Any other questions?
Board, any further comments or questions? Okay, so I would like to have a motion to consider the 2 underage students for admission into the district's TK program, with the caveat that we are going to make every effort to have them assessed prior to the start of the school year, but regardless, they would be assessed prior to being in person school, and that we have room available. And I guess given that we are e-learning, distance learning at the moment, we have room that would come into effect once we move from there. Can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Pamela, are you there?
Okay, so now I think I can hear now. Did I get a second?
Yes, we had a approve and a second.
Okay, and a roll call vote. Art?
Aye.
Bill?
Yes.
Sandra?
Aye.
And Pamela Hamilton is an aye. The motion carries. We'll move on to Section 10, Business and Finance. Adopt the 2020-2021 original budget 40-day revision. Andrew, was there any further comments that you had on that?
No, there is not.
Spencer, Janet, or board, any further comments?
No.
Okay, if I could get a motion to adopt the 2020-21 original budget 40-day revision.
I'll make a motion. We adopt the budget 45-day revision as presented.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. And we'll do a roll call vote. Art?
Aye.
Sandra?
Aye.
Pamela Hamilton's an aye. Bill?
Yes.
And the motion.
Pamela, I think we've lost you again.
Pamela, are you still there?
I think I'm still, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
Yes.
you now.
Okay, I don't know why I'm fading in and out tonight, but so we're approved the 2020-2021 consolidated.
Pamela, you're breaking up, but I'll go ahead and give the comments. This is our application for our federal ESSA funding. We apply for all of the funding that is available to us. The one that is not marked yes is Title III migrant education, because we don't have enough migrant education students in our district to qualify. Otherwise, this is a critical piece of our funding that we get from the federal government. And this is just saying, yes, we want the funding. Please bring it down and put it in a big truck and dump it on the front lawn. So yeah, this is important. And you see this at least once a year, every year for me. Again, just an application saying, yeah, we want the funding.
Thank you, Andrew. Board, is there any comments or questions regarding this? Great. Can I get a motion to approve the 2020-2021 consolidated application spring data submission?
So moved.
So
Second.
moved.
Thank you. We'll do a roll call vote. Art? I'm just nodding. Aye. Thank you. Bill?
Yes.
And Sandra?
Aye.
And Pamela Hamilton's an aye. The motion carries. And with that, I'd like to adjourn the meeting at 6:46 this evening.